After my mom died, I thought the worst was over. I'd spent months watching her fade, one hospital visit after another, holding her hand as she whispered that everything would be okay. But it wasn't, not even close. The funeral was small, quiet, and painfully sterile, just how my dad liked things. Martin, my father, or at least the man I called my father, barely spoke a word. He stood there stone-faced, as if he were attending a meeting, not burying the woman he'd spent 30 years with. I sat by her grave long after everyone left. The autumn wind carried her favorite scent, lavender, and for a moment I felt her. I thought maybe this was closure, that we'd all just quietly move on, as people do. But that night, as we cleaned out her things, my father turned to me, cold, flat, emotionless, and said something I'll never forget. "I want your mother's jewelry box, all of it. It belongs to me now." That one sentence broke me more than her death ever could. Growing up, my mom was everything to me. She was the kind of woman who made pancakes on Sundays just because, who left notes in my lunchbox until I graduated high school. She laughed loudly, loved deeply, and somehow always knew when I was hurting, even when I said I was fine. My dad, Martin, was the opposite. Cold, distant. He was a man of routine and silence. If he wasn't working late, he was locked in his office reading or watching the news with that blank stare. He rarely smiled, never hugged, and I can count the number of conversations we had on one hand. When Mom got sick, I moved back in to help. It was hard, watching her shrink into herself, her bright eyes dimming. But even then, she tried to stay strong, for me. One night, just a week before she passed, we were sitting in her room. Her hand was trembling in mine, and she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Emily," she whispered, her voice barely there, "there's something I should have told you about your father." But then the nurse came in, the moment passed, and she never brought it up again. I didn't know it then, but that unfinished sentence would haunt me forever. The house was too quiet after the funeral, the kind of silence that wraps around you and makes it hard to breathe. I stayed behind to clean out some of Mom's things. It felt like the least I could do. I found her jewelry box on her dresser. White velvet worn around the edges. I remembered watching her get ready for dinners, slipping on her favorite pearl earrings and winking at me through the mirror. She always said, "These will be yours one day, Emmy. Every piece tells a story." As I ran my fingers over the box, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Martin, his voice cut through the room like a knife. "I want your mother's jewelry box, all of it, handed over." I turned, blinking. What? Why? She wanted me to have it. His face twisted. Not with grief, but with something colder. Bitterness, maybe. "That's not your decision, it's mine now. Just give it to me, Emily." I shook my head. "No," she made it clear, "this was meant for me." He stepped closer, jaw tight, and then he said something that stopped me cold. "She wasn't who you thought she was, and neither am I." The room spun. I didn't know what he meant, but I suddenly knew I had to find out. That night, I sat on my childhood bed with the jewelry box in my lap. My hands trembled as I opened it, one memory after another washing over me with each piece I touched. Her wedding ring, the sapphire brooch she wore every Christmas, the tiny gold bracelet she gave me on my 16th birthday. But something felt off. The lining of the box was slightly loose at the bottom. I pulled gently and there it was, an envelope taped underneath. My name was written in her delicate handwriting, "For Emily, when the time is right." I opened it slowly, heart pounding. The letter was dated 3 weeks before she died. "My sweet girl," it began, "there's something I should have told you a long time ago." She explained how before Martin she'd been in love with someone else, a man her parents never approved of. She became pregnant with me, but her family forced her to marry Martin, who agreed to raise me on one condition, that the truth would stay buried forever. "He never forgave me," she wrote, "and I fear he never truly accepted you. But you were never a mistake, Emily, you were my joy." At the bottom of the envelope was a small silver key taped to the page. "This key opens a safe deposit box. The address is written on the back. There's more to the story, more that belongs to you." 2 days later, I stood in a cold, sterile room at the downtown bank. The manager handed me a small metal box and left me alone to open it. My palms were slick with sweat as I turned the key from Mom's envelope. Inside was a stack of photographs neatly bundled with twine. I untied them slowly. The first photo stopped my breath. Me, as a baby, cradled in the arms of a man I didn't recognize. He had kind eyes, a wide smile, and he was looking at me like I was his whole world. More photos followed. Him pushing me on a swing, holding me at my first birthday, standing in the distance at school plays, always watching, never seen. Underneath the photos was a letter, the paper yellowed slightly at the edges. It was addressed simply to my daughter, Emily. "If you're reading this," it began, "then your mom kept her promise. I wasn't allowed to be part of your life, not really, but that never stopped me from loving you. I watched from afar every chance I could, every birthday, every graduation. I was there, just not close enough for you to see." And then, tucked in soft velvet beneath the letter, was a sapphire necklace. Simple, beautiful. It was her birthstone, the letter read, "And now it's yours, a part of both of us." I held it up to the light, and something shifted inside me. For so long I thought I'd been unwanted, that the coldness I felt from Martin was somehow my fault. But now I knew the truth. I was never unloved, just lied to. And in that moment I felt more seen than I ever had before. I never spoke to Martin again after that. There was nothing left to say. He wasn't my father, not in blood, and certainly not in love. The silence between us had always said more than words ever could. I packed my things, took the jewelry box and the sapphire necklace, and left that house for good. But I kept the letter from my real father close. I read it often. Each time it stitched a part of me back together. Weeks later, I sat at my kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper and started writing a letter, not for today, not even for tomorrow, but for the daughter I hope to have someday. I told her everything, about my mom, about the man who raised me in silence, about the one who loved me from the shadows. I made her a promise that I'd never let lies grow where love should be, that she'd always know who she is and where she came from. I lost a mother, uncovered a truth, and found a father who loved me in silence. And in the end I realized, sometimes the most painful secrets carry the deepest kind of love. Now I want to ask you something. Would you rather live with a comforting lie, or an ugly truth that finally sets you free?